Hello, Diann Wingert. Welcome to your small business podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you?
I've really been looking forward to this, and I can't wait to get started.
Thank you. I'm so glad. So glad you're here. So, of course, let's get this introduction out the way. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how has your entrepreneur journey got you to where you are today, talking with me.
One of the things I like to say is that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I never planned to have my own business, even though, as I look back, as early as my childhood, I had entrepreneurial traits, but I didn't know anybody who was self employed. I didn't even realize that was an option. But I found myself as the executive director of a mental health agency, reporting to an incompetent and unethical CEO. It was
Wow.
a hardcore harassment situation, but I was so stubborn that I didn't want to quit. And it finally got to the point where it was like jump or be pushed. So I thought, okay, I'm going to quit. But at that point, I realized I didn't have the confidence that I was going to get a better boss somewhere else. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided it was time to become my own. So I've had a couple of previous careers in medical sales and as a psychotherapist, and I've been a coach since 2015, working exclusively online, which has turned out great
Yeah.
because I've relocated twice in the last 3 years. And if I didn't have an online business, that would have been impossible.
You're right. You're right. Wow. What a background. I'm just like, whoa. I hate that you went through that though with your career and your incompetent boss. And I'm just like, I can only imagine going through something like that.
Thank you. But it's not
Yeah.
the easiest way to start being your own boss, but I know I'm far from the only one. And sadly, there's a lot of women who go through this. So
Yeah.
I love helping other women become entrepreneurs, whether they think they're natural born entrepreneurs or they're in a similar situation to my own. But it's not the easiest way to make a living. And there's a lot you need to learn and a lot
Hmm.
you need to unlearn. I'm sure you'd agree.
Definitely. I definitely agree, especially about unlearn.
That's the bigger part, as it turns out.
It's a huge part. I always say when it comes to being an entrepreneur, I really love the self development that you have to go through. It makes you a better person, but it's a lot of stuff you have to unlearn and learn in order to be successful. So,
Agreed.
yes, yes. Now, first, let's talk about the subject because it's. I was thinking, it's don't hire a coach until you do this. So I just want to
Mhm.
tell what the topic is, um, because there are quite a few things that you need to do before you do that. But first, you've worked with a lot of people, of course, with different backgrounds, and you talk about the high ability female entrepreneur. I first want to dig into that before we go into the hardcore of what you need to do before you hire a coach, because I believe a lot of my listeners are that. They are the high ability female entrepreneurs. What are those characteristics of that group, and what are the key factors implemented to assist them on that entrepreneur journey, that high ability female entrepreneur? I hope I'm saying my question right.
Get exactly where you're going.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think most women who are high ability,
Hmm.
it's clear from early childhood. They are sitting in the front row of the classroom. They are raising their hand as often as possible because they're curious, they're smart, they're bright. And I distinguish between smart and bright because there's a lot of smart people that are not bright.
Mm.
Bright is a quick, moving brain, curious, loves learning, and usually does extremely well in school.
Okay.
Straight A student, often highly educated, goes on to grad school, professional school. Most of my clients are highly educated women. And the funny thing is that a lot of men become entrepreneurs because they did poorly in school,
Mm.
which means they generally do poorly in the workplace because they're not so good at following directions. They would rather make decisions than follow other people's decisions.
Mm.
Well, women are culturally conditioned to care a lot about other people's expectations. And that starts
Mm,
very early on in public school. So we are usually the good girls. We're often the teacher's pets.
yeah.
We're usually straight A students. Well, what comes with that? That high ability personality oftentimes comes with very motivated, very driven, very hard on ourselves in terms of our self expectations. We struggle with perfectionism, people pleasing, imposter complex. We can be really hard on ourselves when we do anything less than our very, very best.
Mhm.
So we're more at risk for burnout. These are my people, and it sounds like
Yeah.
they're your people too.
Yes. I think you just described my whole target base. That's all
Same.
of my listeners right there. My email list, all of them. That's it. That's them. Yes.
And I'm going to guess that it probably describes you too.
It kind of does. I want to. When you were talking about bright, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm not bright because sometimes it takes me a few minutes to catch on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bright. Somebody tell a joke, I'm like, oh, I got a delayed laugh
You're the
because
last one to laugh after you've gone home and washed your face, and you're like, "Oh, that's
yeah,
so funny."
that's me. So I'm not bright.
But you checked all the other
I
boxes.
checked all the other ones though.
And here's the other thing about being a high ability woman, and you know
Hmm.
this, is that we do really well in corporate culture, in whether we're working for a corporation, a nonprofit, or we're in the academic world. I've worked with a lot of college professors, but we usually max out at a certain level. We don't rise all the way to the top, and we don't even know why. And I think of it as like the good girl syndrome,
Hmm.
because there's certain things, certain behaviors that men have, certain things that men learn, usually through sports and just being socially conditioned as a male, the way they're willing to take risks and their relationship with failure. And I think women, even high ability women, need to learn that in order to be successful as an entrepreneur. You can be successful in the corporate world, but only up to a certain point. But now that you're the boss and you are literally where the buck stops, there's some things you need to learn that do not come naturally to high ability women, but they can learn them, especially from other high ability women, because they won't respect anyone else.
You are so right. You are so right. Because I don't think for a lot, from what I've noticed, a lot of people, a lot of women who get business coaches, there are other women,
Yes.
we're not going to listen to a man.
Haven't we listened to them long enough is the way I think about it. I mean, I don't think it's any surprise that the person that was harassing me in an executive position was a man. And
Of
you know
course.
what the problem was? I was smarter,
Mm,
more competent, and far more ethical. And I discovered some evidence of
mm,
fraud.
mm,
And I wasn't going to be a whistleblower, but
mm.
I let him know that I had a problem with it because I felt it was putting my professional license and identity at risk.
Yeah.
He didn't care.
And it was. Because if he's doing fraud, everybody under him
If
is
he went down, I was
at
going
risk.
down with him. I would
Yeah.
have lost my license. I would have lost my livelihood. And, that was just not okay with me. But I think women can also, and especially high ability women, can be a little naive
Mm-hmm.
to how certain games are played in the business world. And I think it's one of the reasons why we tend to hire female coaches,
You do.
because there may be more of a natural trust factor there. There may be more suspicion with men. But
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest with you, there are plenty of female coaches out there that should not be hired, because just because you're female doesn't mean you can be trusted. I think we all learned that in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, which
Oh,
everybody's been glued to for the last few weeks. I know I was.
a lot of that crazy circus. I didn't
Mm.
watch it all, but of course I heard, the verdict. And I was like,
I watched the highlights on TikTok, and that was enough.
I did. Yeah, I did see
Uh,
some stuff on TikTok. That was crazy. But you're so right. Like, I've never even thought about that whole men and women thing and how I'm realizing that a lot of coaches that I know and that I've seen on social media are all women. And I have yet to meet a woman or, that has a man coach. Never.
Hmm.
Interesting. You just
It
opened
is
my mind to
interesting.
something else.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you really have. I don't even think there's men business coaches,
Of
but there's
course.
not a lot of them though.
That's not true. Actually,
You know what I'm
there have been here's the thing. Coaching as a profession
saying?
is really only been around for the last 20 years. But executive coaches, sports coaches, and business coaches have been around for much longer. The only ones who knew about them, the only ones who had access to them, and the only ones who were hiring them were men.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons is that women tend not to rise all the way to the top in corporations is
Mm,
because men tend to concentrate and hold on to the power at the very top.
yeah.
So if they all have executive coaches and they're all men and the coaches are all men, that's not something they're going to share with us.
Right. They're not gonna tell us anything, but go get some coffee. It's what they want to say. So let's get into the nitty gritty of of the subject. Let's go more deep into it. And for those people who are thinking of having a business coach, how can you tell when you need one and how to choose the right one and etc. So let's kind of start from the beginning of how does one know if they really need a coach or if they need something else?
It's a really good question. I wish more people would ask themselves before they hire.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think because coaching is a new profession and because a lot of the more well known coaches, both male and female, tend to have a very splashy online presence,
Mm-hmm.
some of the coaches that I'm aware of that are highly successful, making multi-million dollars, have actually learned how to market themselves online from men.
Hmm.
And here's the thing. These days, I mean, I was a therapist for many years. Nobody brags about having a therapist or seeing a therapist. Nobody says, "Oh, I want to tell you about my fantastic therapist,"
Yeah.
because unfortunately, here we are in 2022, and there is still stigma attached to mental health and therapy,
Mm-hmm.
sadly.
Yeah.
But plenty of people will happily say, my coach this, my coach that. Oh, you sound just like my coach. Oh, so my coach told me this. Oh, I learned that from my coach. Do you have a coach?
Yeah.
And I think because people are willing to admit that we don't have all the answers, we can't always reach our goals without some kind of assistance. And in some circles, it's kind of considered cool to have a coach.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start with the wrong reasons for hiring a coach.
Okay, that's great.
Okay. Because lots of times we start a business because we've fallen under somebody's spell,
Mm-hmm.
usually an internet marketer,
Mm-hmm.
and that person has convinced us through all their wonderful marketing that starting your own business is easy, it's fun, you are going to be rolling in the cheddar in no time flat, and
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do it. So, and that you'll be working far fewer hours and making far more money than any other lifestyle. And you can work from anywhere. It's like, the typical picture somebody sitting with their laptop on the beach
Mm-hmm.
and all this notion about passive income and all that. That's the hook. That's what hooks us and reels us in because, wow, it's easy, it's lucrative, it's fun. Anybody can do it. What am I, stupid? Where do I sign? Right.
Right.
But the reality is that having a business of any kind, an internet business, a brick and mortar, a professional practice, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And being the boss and where the buck stops is a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
And so while I've been self-employed since 2010, I will never have a boss again. And I probably should have done it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I will not tell anyone that it's easy. I happen to think it's a fun lifestyle, but not for the reasons that a lot of these people selling coaching programs would tell you. I think it's fun because I actually like being responsible for my results instead of someone else getting the credit. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also okay with accepting 100% of the responsibility when I fall on my freaking face, because it goes both ways. You don't just get to be flying high and saying, yeah, I'm my own boss. It's the coolest thing. I love being an entrepreneur, and not take responsibility for your failures.
Mhm.
But you kind of have to have a little bit of a thicker skin, a stronger stomach,
Yes.
and risk tolerance. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So when you don't hire a coach is because you think it'll make the task of having your own business um, like literally a no brainer. I have
Mm.
heard so many people say, I can't figure this out. I've bought all the courses. I listen to all the podcasts, even yours, Diann. I do all the things and I'm still not making any progress. I think I need a coach. Now, that's not necessarily a bad motivation, because if you are working hard and you are doing quote unquote all the things and you're not
Mhm.
making progress, chances are you do need someone else who's got perspective to help you figure out what's working and what's not working. But don't make the mistake of assuming now that I've hired a coach, they're going to fix everything.
Mm.
They're going to make it work. You still have to do the work.
Yeah.
They will point out where you need to do it. And I think expectations and communication needs to be at the top of the list, because I
Mhm.
think sometimes if we bought into becoming a business owner under the notion that it's going to be easy and fun, and then when it's not easy and fun, we then think I'm just going to hire someone else who will
Mm.
make it more easy and more fun. I'm like, we got expectations going sideways all over
Yeah.
the place. What I say is, and don't just hire someone because they have a sparkly online presence and they make it look fun, or they look like they're really, really rich and not
Mm.
stressed out. So you make the assumption if I hire them, I'll be really, really rich and not stressed out. Chances are you're going to be less rich because you just gave them a bunch of money. They're
Yeah.
going to be more rich. You're going to be less rich. You're still going to be stuck and frustrated.
Yeah.
So it's the assumptions.
Mm.
I say the right reason to hire a coach is when you are making the effort, you are still accepting full responsibility for your business, but you can't seem to get out of the weeds. You
Mm.
think about getting a job all the time. You're having to conflate your numbers to your partner
Mm.
because they're asking questions you do not have a good answer to. Like a lot of partners are like, so you seem like you're spending a lot of time on this business, but I don't see any money coming in. Like,
Mm.
what's up with that? And then you're kind of telling little stories and that sort of stuff. That's kind of a sign. But I say, coaching can provide guidance,
Mhm.
support, and accountability. So figuring out who the right coach is for you, it is really, really helpful to know, to have the self-awareness to know which of those do I need the most and in what order. If what you need is guidance, you might be better off with a consultant. If
Mm.
what you need is support, you might be better off just being part of a group of other female solopreneurs who are all kind of helping each other stay
Right.
in the game. And if you need accountability, that does lean towards a coach. But
Mhm.
are you better one on one, or is that too intimidating and you would rather be part of a group? These are all such good questions to ask yourself. What do I need the most? Do I need guidance? Do I
Mhm.
need support, or do I need accountability? We really do need all three, but kind
Yeah.
of like rank, and is that a good fit for the particular coach that you're thinking of? I do not recommend just hiring the person that your friend hired
Mm.
unless you're in the same stage of business,
Mm.
encountering the same difficulties, and have the same kind of personality and needs as your friend. Because you may end up with a very different result, because that person that is helping your friend do cartwheels in their business,
Right.
it just may not be a fit for you at all.
That makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people, they don't do that. They don't figure out exactly what they're needing. They just know they haven't reached that huge goal that they're trying to, oh, I'm not making 100K. I think I need a business coach. Not realizing what exactly is it that you're needing. Where are you weak at?
Specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, some people are really, really great at marketing. They just love marketing. They love talking about their business. They love representing their business. They love creating content for their business. They love getting out there and marketing, marketing, marketing. But they don't have good money sense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mind their numbers. They don't
Right.
even look at their numbers. You may have a business that looks like it's going somewhere because you're getting out there and talking about it a lot, but maybe your price point is way off, or
Exactly.
maybe you're not getting in front of the right people. So you have a huge audience of people that adore you, but will never be able to hire you. These are things that, you know, having the right kind of coach to help you look at those things
Mm-hmm.
makes all the difference. And nowadays, there's different kinds of coaches for every different type of need.
Everything.
There's no one size fits all. And honestly, I know I'm making it sound hard to
Mm-hmm.
know what you need and when you need it and to find the right person for you. But I'm a little frustrated by the number of times I've heard people say, so I bought this course and I bought that program and I've been following this person and I done this and this and this and this, but I'm still in the same place in my business. I
Mm-hmm.
had somebody hire me as her business coach and strategist after she had invested $25,000 in
Whoa.
another coach, and it ended up being like a total sinkhole. This is not uncommon. I've known people who almost went bankrupt after hiring a business coach who they hired to help them make money, not lose it.
Right. It makes me like so. I guess I'm being nosy. So what happened? Why didn't the 25,000 work? It's like it just makes you think like, whoa, you spent that much money on a business coach and still nothing. Like, what did y'all do? Did y'all talk? Did y'all make a plan? It's like what happened?
And this goes back to why, we're talking about don't hire a business coach until you do this. Okay. You
Yes.
you need to know, like, first of all, what stage of business are you in?
Mm-hmm.
If you are what I call an aspiring or an emerging entrepreneur, you're like 0 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're a baby
Yeah.
newbie entrepreneur. You're just barely getting your feet in the water. There's so much to learn, and you're not making any money yet. It's probably a side hustle. You're probably still working a full-time job. So you have to mind your pennies and be really smart about the decisions you make.
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneur who's 3 to 5 years into the game has totally different needs.
Right.
And those who have like 7 to 10 plus, they have totally different needs. Also, so that's like the number of years, different type of coaching needed.
Mm-hmm.
Also, are you a solopreneur? Do you have a team? Do you have an agency?
Right.
Different types of things. So I think self-awareness and expectations are critical. And unfortunately, with respect to the $25,000 coaching,
Mm-hmm.
you've heard it, I've heard it, your audience has heard it. There's so many people now talking about six figures, six figures, six figures.
Yeah.
You got to get to 100K. Why?
Right.
Why do
Yeah.
you have to get to 100K? Because every coach out there says so. But why? Maybe you need 200K for the business and the lifestyle that you want and the obligations and responsibilities you have. But somebody else might only need 50 and she would be happy as a clam in the mud bank.
Mm-hmm.
So why does everybody think I got to get to 100K? Because so many people are saying it. And I think it's the kind of the herd mentality where,
Mm-hmm.
well, everybody I'm listening to online, everybody I'm following on Instagram, all the podcasts that I listen to, they're all talking about getting to 100K, getting to 100K, get to 100K. So that means I need to get to 100K. So I'm going to hire a coach who says, I will show you the way to get to 100K. Let me tell you, She knows a way. She does not know the way. And there'll
Right.
be somebody else who will want to tell you they know the way, and their way is totally different from the first one.
Right. Right.
So it's super confusing to be like, okay, do I build a referral based business to get to 100K? Do I build a business that leverages telling stories on Instagram to get to 100K? Do I do affiliate marketing? Do I do courses?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all, just because it's such a new industry and because it's an unregulated industry where nobody's getting smacked down no matter how fraudulent or unethical they may be, we're all just following along like, I just want to make some money and not have to work for the man anymore. That's all.
Yeah.
Just and it creates kind of a helplessness
Yeah.
where we're all saying, if I've heard this once, I've heard it 100 times in my free consultations, because nobody gets to hire me until we go through a consultation process.
That's good.
They
Yes.
want to work with me. I have to decide if they're ready to work with me. Am I
Mm-hmm.
the right coach at the right time for the right reason, or they will not become a client, because I don't want to work with someone who isn't in the right place
Right.
to benefit from what I have to offer. It would be wasting my time and their money, and I'm not going to do that. But if
You're a
people
great coach. A lot of
thank you.
coaches don't do that. They just take anybody.
I'm an ethical
Mm-hmm.
person, and I think having a therapy background was really, really helpful, because I understand whatever expectations someone brings into the relationship. If you just go along with it and let them think you're going to solve all their problems, you have all the answers just because you've got a good online presence or you talk a good talk. I'm not going to do that to another human being.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are borrowing money on a credit card and paying 20% interest to hire you. That
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let someone who's in that situation hire me, because
Right.
they're putting too much pressure on themselves. Meanwhile, you hear other coaches say, you need to go all in. You need to show the universe who's boss. You need to find that money. And
Wow.
there's a lot of people talking 100K, and there's a lot of people talking about high ticket and double
Mm-hmm.
your prices. You know what? If you don't have any experience, you are not in a position to be tripling your prices and showing the universe who's boss. The universe is boss. Like, you are a speck in the ocean. Like,
Exactly.
you earn your way.
Yeah.
And I'm all for people making money. I am all for women in particular making
Mm-hmm.
money, but you can't just hire somebody who's going to show you how to make money without actually doing the work, because
Yeah.
when it doesn't happen, who you going to blame?
Their
Who
fairy
you going to
godmother.
blame?
That's who I think they're hiring is the fairy godmother. Like they got a wand and ding. Now you you
You
got
know what?
100K right there. You got 10K months right there. Ding. No, it
I
doesn't work that
I
way.
can't believe you said that. When I was a therapist, I had a magic wand. I mean, it wasn't a real magic wand, obviously. I bought it at Toys R Us. It was like a toy for a kid with little sparkles in it. But when
Mm-hmm.
somebody would say, I just want you to tell me what to do and how to do it, word for word, I said, you know what? That's not what I know what you really want. I got just the thing for you. And I go get my magic wand out. And some people said, like, you're rude. I'm like, and your expectations are completely inappropriate and doomed to
Exactly.
fail.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people are looking for when they hire business coaches. Well, I'll say some of them, that's what they're looking for is the fairy godmother. And if that's one of the things you do not need to do if you're going to hire a coach, that's why you have got to figure out what is it that you need. What like you said, where you are in your business, not I want somebody to just from point A to point Z and do it all for me. Like,
Or, like, sometimes people don't realize what they're looking for as a therapist, what
yeah,
they're looking for as a mommy,
yeah,
what they're looking for is, somebody they can put the responsibility on for making them successful. So if they're not, it's her fault, not
mm-hmm,
theirs. They want to outsource the decision making. The truth is that you can hire someone who has a program that will tell you their quote unquote proven system
Mm-hmm.
for making six figures or whatever the goal is. And you could follow it letter by letter and you will get a specific outcome. But you may end up creating a business that is not right for you at all. 0%. You
Yeah.
were a good student. This is what going back to the high ability woman. You were
Mm-hmm.
a good student. You were an A plus student because you followed the leader to the letter. But that's not sustainable because what's the point of becoming an entrepreneur if you want to have someone else tell you what to do? You might as well have a boss.
Ooh, I didn't even. That's a good
Mic drop.
point. Yeah, that was a mic drop. Fairy wands. That yeah, it was because you're right. You're exactly right. Because I know I bought some courses. Which one helped me though? I had about Jenna Kutcher's podcast course to teach myself how to do it, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess when it comes, I guess that's something different because that's just like okay, make your podcast. Now I'm done. Like I haven't looked at that stuff in forever, and it's done. But then you have those courses, like you said. I think that's they teach you step by step how to do something, and even if you follow those steps, it might work for you. It might not because that's how they. That's their map. It worked for them. It's not necessarily going to work for you.
And here's the other part is that it may work for you, meaning you might get the intended result, but you've actually built something that's not in alignment with your values,
Mm-hmm.
not in alignment with your personality, not in alignment with your lifestyle, your age and stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are you going to do? And on the topic of the $25,000 investment, that's not, I mean, I've heard of $50,000 programs, $100,000 programs, and
Mm,
some people
my
who
gosh.
buy them, I've literally heard this said, if I spend that much money on something, she better deliver. I'm like, ooh, mm-mm.
I'm thinking if I spend that much money, they
You
need.
better do the work.
Yeah, I'm like, if I'm giving you 25,000, you finna build my business. I'm talking about from the business plan all the way to seeing it through. You're gonna do it. That's all. Because I'm
That's
trying to think. I don't even know anyone that has a plan that high with that price high ticket. What are they selling? What are they doing?
they're selling a
That's what I want to
framework.
know.
They're selling a framework.
For $25,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, I mean, maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm an outlier, but I think especially for female solopreneurs who want to build a business around their expertise, what they have a passion for,
Mm-hmm.
and the transformation that they have created in their own life and they want to help other people create, you can learn strategy and tactic from other people, but at the end of the day, these are personal brands. You need to be infused into every part of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So I like to think a lot of people come to a coach saying, just tell me what to do. My answer to that is, I will do no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you would literally become dependent on me for as long as you own this business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to create dependencies. I want to give you some tools, some skills, and some mindset, help you unlearn some of the beliefs and the habits that you've brought into this business from your previous life in corporate, nonprofit, academic world. And then get really honest with yourself about what are your real strengths, what could you just hate doing and you either need to leave that part out of your business or get someone else in your business to do it, at
Mm-hmm.
least a contractor. um, and how much money do you actually need to make? How many hours do you actually want to work? What is your end game? Do you want to stay in this business until you retire? Do you want to grow this business and sell it and start another? Are
Mm-hmm.
you just doing this as an experiment? If it doesn't quote work out, you're going to go back to corporate? Like, we have to answer these questions. Otherwise, we are literally outsourcing responsibility
Mm.
and autonomy to whatever coach we hire. And what's the point of being your own boss if you're willing to do that?
And
I
like
don't
you,
want anyone to answer all my questions for me. I want to hire the coaches I work with, help me think, help me recognize what my real options are, confront me when my assumptions or my biases are inaccurate or fear-based, and then hold me accountable to doing what I said I would instead of changing my mind or
mhm,
following after the next shiny object. Or because what most people do, and you know this for a fact because this
mhm,
is your audience too, we hear this and we're like, oh, that sounds good, I'm going to do that. And then we hear this over here,
mhm,
and all of a sudden we're trying to follow like 10 or 20 different people
yeah,
with completely different programs, and no wonder we're not working.
right,
It's not working. But the solution to that is not to go hire somebody for a lot more money and tell
mm,
them, okay, now it's your responsibility to make me successful. Tell me what to do item by item by item. No, it's doing the hard work of literally getting honest with yourself,
mhm,
using your self-awareness and saying, why am I even doing this? Some of the people I know realized the only reason they even started a business is because it looked like it was going to be cool and fun and half their friends were doing it, but they don't even like it.
oh
It's
wow,
like, it's totally okay to go back to having a job.
yeah, it's not,
Totally okay. This
yeah,
might not be for you, and that's okay.
yeah, it's not for everybody. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur or small business owner. It just is what it is. You just
Or
can't.
don't want to be. Realize
Right.
that, you know what, I could do this. I have been doing this, but I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying the lifestyle. I'm not enjoying this level of responsibility. I was happier when I was working for someone else. And now that I've owned a business, I will be much better at choosing the right job where I can thrive. That's a win in my opinion.
That is.
If that's the outcome,
Yes, I always say wherever you're happy, that is where you should be. That's
without
all that
judgment.
matters. Right. Right. Wow. Are there any red flags that you think that people can look for as they're looking for business coaches? What are some red flags to make you say, no, no,
Mm,
no, not that
okay.
one?
I think some of the red flags that I see and I've heard about through some of my clients, when a coach is forcing a premature decision, meaning I understand about urgency and scarcity, and I understand there's a certain amount of that that
Mm,
helps people make a decision and take action. When the fact is, most of the time we're like, that sounds really good. I can totally see how that would benefit. Let me think about it. It's just like joining the gym,
mm,
losing weight, like and leaving a bad relationship, whatever it is. Sometimes you do not need to think about it. Like,
right.
with all due respect, you've probably been thinking about it a whole lot of time already.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not necessarily opposed to someone using some of these strategies to help somebody get off the fence and maybe incentivizing them making a decision. But what I think of as red flags are when a coach is trying to enroll you in their program and they're being kind of coercive. You kind of start feeling like, you're dealing with somebody on the used car lot,
Mm,
or here's some of the more subtle ways that this is done. Well, you seem like an ideal client to me, and I'd really love to work with you. I'm so confident we would have an amazing transformation. But I got to be honest with you. I see that you're hesitating, and I just need you to know that this is really kind of your last opportunity to work with me one on one, because
wow.
I'm eliminating my one on one program. And if you wait, you'll need to share me with however many other people will be in my group program. If that's okay with you, that's totally cool. Do you see what's happening there?
Yeah.
It's a little bit manipulative, or something that got me to enroll in a program I should have been in for a lot of money was I said, you know what, this sounds good and I am interested, but I don't feel that I'm ready for it now. And I felt that was my intuition and my
Mm-hmm.
truth. I'm interested. I do not feel ready for it now. What I was told was, well, you can wait, but the next time it's offered, it's going to be double the price. And
Mm.
I'm just too cheap for that. So I actually signed up for a program I was not ready for.
Oh, wow.
I spent a lot of money. It did not go well because I
Mm.
was not ready for it.
Right.
And the only reason I said yes was because I was told the next time it's offered, it's going to be twice the price.
Hmm.
Now, that wasn't even true.
Really?
Yeah. So I think price manipulation, scarcity manipulation, those are red flags. And unfortunately, most human beings have FOMO,
Yeah.
and so we give in to those things. That is absolutely a red flag. Other red flags are when somebody uh, tells you that in order to prove that you're serious about having a business, you need to invest in a program that you actually can't afford.
Whoa. I've never heard it. Someone said that?
But they don't put it that way. When somebody says, I can't really afford this right now, they start to imply, well, then I guess you're not really serious about being successful in business. I mean, you've heard the expression, it takes money to make money. Did you think this success was just
Yeah.
going to drop out of the sky? So it's what I call client shaming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's very manipulative. And unfortunately, because many of us have a bias towards hiring women because we somehow think they're less manipulative and more trustworthy,
Mm.
it's not always so.
Mm-mm.
And anytime, I just think, anytime you're in a situation where you're making a decision about spending money, investing money, time, focus, attention, energy, like if it's worth doing right.
Mm.
It's not a casual decision. It's not a hasty decision. If you're married or partnered, it's probably a level of commitment and investment that you're going to need to at least get your partner to say, well, it's a lot of money, but if you really need it, then you should do it.
Yeah.
Those are red flags. I also think any coach that claims this is the way,
Mm.
there's no the world of online business, there's so many different options and opportunities. There's no one way. So anybody says, theirs is the way or the proven way or the only way, that's very
Yeah.
cultish in my opinion. And I do not I think that's very much a red flag. And I just think there's a lot of shaming that goes on in
Mm.
attempting to enroll people. And I'm embarrassed about that going on in our industry. I don't think it's
Yeah.
necessary. I think there's enough people who need help at every price point. We don't need to resort to those kind of tactics.
No.
And I also don't think anybody, any coach or consultant, can promise you that you are going to have a specific result by the end of their program. There's no way they could know that. There's
True.
no way that they could know that you're even going to show up to the calls or do the work.
That
So
is true.
promising you this is the result you're going to get, that is a sales tactic and it'll get you signed up. But then what? You still have to show up. You still have to do the work. You still have to
Hmm.
overcome your fears and doubts and uncertainty. So I think we just need to be a little bit more honest about the amount of work it actually takes to grow our business and not overpromise and underdeliver. I'll be the first one to say, I have a lot of fun with my clients and they have a lot of fun with me. We work hard, we play hard, we laugh a lot. There are some tears
Yeah.
because you know that having your own business is really kind of the ultimate personal development path.
Yes, it
And
is.
in order to grow a business, you need to grow yourself as a person and you need to confront all kinds of things that
Hmm.
never even get touched when you're an employee. But that's one of the things I really love about it. And I just think that we just have to really be honest with people about what what it really means. Coach doesn't take responsibility for solving your problems. Coach doesn't take responsibility for making you money. Coach should not tell you exactly what to do step by step unless you intend to work with them for as long as you own your business.
Right.
But can they help you see your blind spots and recognize alternatives and confront you on limited thinking and support you as you do scary things
Hmm.
and fail and try again and succeed.
Right.
A good coach can and a good coach will.
Yeah, because the way you make it sound, if you're hiring a coach for all the wrong reasons, you might as well say that coach is now your boss. Because if you,
That's the exactly right.
yeah, if you need them to tell you step by step everything and you don't want to think, think for yourself and take responsibility for everything, there might as well say you're back at where you, I guess, were trying to get away from that 8 to 4 and 9 to 5. That is what you're now in because that
Or
coach
a
is now.
parent, right? Like
Yeah.
like a boss or a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and you see sometimes when you're working with people as a coach and you see the difficulty that some people have with actually doing the work, you can get, well, at least for me as a former therapist, I can kind of get a window into how they were probably parented.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people need a lot of reassurance and guidance, and other people want to be confronted. They welcome it because they know that they're not going to be able to get unstuck if they aren't.
Right.
So, and fortunately, there's every different kind of coach out there. You can have people that are really, really, really nurturing
Mm-hmm.
and supportive for people who are moving at the baby step pace. And then you have other people like me that are super direct.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
when somebody starts to tell me, well, I really don't know, I said, that's bullshit. And we both know it. And they're like,
I like that
what?
approach.
Well, see that it works for me. So I
Yeah.
tend to work. What works for me tends to attract the people that also works for. Because
Mm-hmm.
we know when we're playing, we know when we're like, I don't know, I'm confused. I'm like, no, you're not. You're scared, and
Yeah.
that's totally okay. We can work with that, but not when we're calling it something it's not.
Right. Exactly. That I like that because then to me that's the best way to work, and I want to say it's the quickest way because it's like you're getting right to what the problem is. Let's fix it. Let's deal with it, and not act like I don't know. Yeah, it makes it the whole process much longer.
Thank you for validating that. Like
Yeah,
I really, I'm kind of an impatient person.
me too.
And I do not like wasting mine or anyone else's time, so I'm always looking at what's the quickest way to
Mm-hmm.
get to where we're going,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just unnecessary struggle and suffering. And I think oftentimes when we say, I don't know, or I'm confused, or I'm overwhelmed, that's just indulging
Mm-hmm.
in not having to take action. What's usually underneath that is that we're either not committed, we're afraid, or
Mm-hmm.
we didn't realize it was going to be this hard and we don't want to do the work. And that's totally okay. If you realize, oh, I bought into this idea because I thought it was going to be really easy and it turns out it's not. So I don't want to do it anymore. Hey,
Fine.
then you shouldn't.
Yeah, and then the thing is, when if you come to that conclusion, it's like great. Your coach just
That's
helped you.
clarity.
Yes, that money you just paid, she helped you figure it out.
Well
You
worth.
really don't even want to do it. All right.
Yeah.
Now you can move on to something else and be happy.
I love that so much. It's kind of like, back in the day when I used to do marriage counseling. And it's in a way I never thought about this before,
Mhm.
but it's so much the same. When people would come in, it's like, we just need you to save our marriage. I'm like, it's your marriage.
Yeah.
That's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to point out to you how you are keeping yourself stuck in a dysfunctional loop.
Right.
It is not my job to break the loop. It is your job.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
same thing with the business. And if the loop that you need to break is, oh, I really am not liking this, don't keep buying courses and listening to podcasts.
Yes.
Put an end to it. That's wisdom.
It is. It's wisdom and growth. I know of some people who right now who will listen to every podcast and take every course and never make a move. And it's like, why are you wasting your money? You're fooling yourself. You don't want this. This isn't for you. You don't want to be an entrepreneur. Stop. That's what I'm saying.
But I have my own thoughts about why so many people are doing that. Well, I
Tell
mean,
me, because that's a
I'm a
lot of people. We want to
there
know.
there are a lot. So a couple of things. One, I think that there is a lot of attention, especially on social media, being placed on making entrepreneurship for both men and women, but there's like the subgenre of boss babe
Mm,
messaging that is so centered around the notion that, like, you want this. You want the freedom. You want the independence. You want to be your own boss. Don't you want to be sitting on a lounge chair with your laptop, having your adoring fans, followers, and high paying clients flooding into your inbox?
mm.
You want that. It's seductive.
It is. You sound
And
like
I
an ad. Let me write this down. What you know?
I think a lot of us,
Hmm.
I mean, we're vaguely frustrated with corporate culture, or it just seems, oh, it's so routine, and my boss is such a freaking tool. And even though I'm a super hard worker, because again, we deal with high ability women and they are usually superstars,
Yes.
but they're not benefiting from that. Their boss or their company is benefiting from it. So they're even more susceptible to the seduction of female entrepreneurship and this so-called laptop lifestyle. So
Hmm.
I think, wow, why are so many women buying into this and then not doing the work? Because they were seduced. They were seduced into thinking that this is what they wanted. And once they started buying the courses and listening to the podcasts, you kind of start getting to be like you're in the bubble now. And you
Hmm.
start connecting with other women who are also in that bubble, and they start becoming your friends. Hashtag biz bestie, even though none of you is making a dime or
Right.
doing any real work or serving any real clients, but you're kind of going through the podcasts and the blogs and the courses, and you follow the same influencers and all that because it has become an identity, a
Hmm.
status,
Yeah.
a social life,
Yeah.
a way of feeling a sense of purpose and connection and belonging. I mean, you know, that's not unusual. That's human nature.
Hmm.
But when it comes to this whole biz babe phenomenon, the reality is, not every woman should have a business.
Hmm.
Not every woman will be successful in her own business. Not every woman would actually want her own business if she really, really understood what she was signing up for. But that's why the whole seductive marketing campaigns are so successful, because they're selling easy, fun, glamorous,
Hmm.
and you want this, don't
Right.
you? Everybody wants this. Like, and I think most people are followers. That's just our nature.
Yeah.
Most people go to a restaurant and don't look at the menu and decide what they want. Most people will ask the waiter, what's poppin'? What's
Hmm.
popular? What are people loving on the menu tonight? Because it takes the pressure off of us having to figure it all out. But business ownership is for people who actually like figuring things out.
Yeah.
And so I think in a way we've done a lot of women a disservice
Mm.
by seducing them into this belief that the only way to be cool these days is to have your own business, especially an online business. Most of the people that try to do it are, are going to find it's a lot harder
Hmm.
and takes a lot longer than they ever expected. And at that point, you're like, well, do I just admit that I just followed the herd and I don't even know why? Or do I just keep on going thinking maybe someday it's going to automatically, magic wand, turn
Right.
into something? I think it always comes down to self awareness and being honest with ourselves. It doesn't matter how long you've been buying the courses and listening to the podcast, doesn't matter how much money you've put into this. Nothing is going to magically happen. Nothing's going to come from it if you don't take the action.
Hmm.
So be honest and get off the damn bus. I have a personal story, real quick, I'd like to share.
Oh yes.
I've shared this on my own podcast,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's not breaking news, but um, I wanted to start a podcast. I had been a guest on multiple podcasts. I'm a natural speaker. I have a former
Mm-hmm.
public speaking experience, and I enjoy sharing what I know and meeting new people this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I had bought the equipment, had the show art, named the show, was paying for hosting, like I'd gone through 2 courses and had expert guidance from 2 podcast launch coaches, and I still wasn't launching the damn podcast. 2 years.
Wow.
So I finally realized that I needed accountability and I needed a deadline and I needed somebody who was not going to let me keep waffling and wiggling around, who was going to actually hold me to it. And I needed it to be public because I have too much of an ego
Mm-hmm.
to embarrass myself in front of people that I want to respect me. So I actually signed up for a 4-week challenge. And I said, in 4 weeks, I'm going to launch a podcast. And every single week, I put my progress in a public place, and other people were
Wow.
responding to it, and that is actually what it took. And then once it got going, it's kept going, and now I'm 2 years in, and
Wow.
it's done extremely well. But I probably would have just kept procrastinating indefinitely if I hadn't been honest with myself and
Mm-hmm.
recognized what I needed then was accountability, and I could not do it for myself.
Mm. And that's always the hard part, isn't it? It's like you would think it would be the easy part. Oh, just getting to know what you want and all of that, the and that's the hardest part.
It is the hardest part.
Yeah, just to get started and know where you want to go and all of that good stuff. It is the hardest part, and figuring out if you really want that. Like you were saying about the whole, boss babe mentality. And when you were talking, I'm like, I never thought of it that way. That whole marketing strategy is you want this, and it looks fun and sexy and live this life. And there's a lot of women right now that are unhappy. They don't want it. They're trying to achieve that lifestyle, and it's just not working for them. And it makes me feel like, dang, I hate for someone to be in that place in their life, you know?
And I think it goes back to the feminine conditioning of believing, the experts know better,
Mm-hmm.
and we need leadership and guidance, and we kind of need to be told what to do. It's the old patriarchy. And the truth is if you're older than a teenager, you know more about what you need and want, what actually works for you than anyone ever could.
Mm-hmm.
You are an expert in you. You are the only expert in you.
Yes.
And while you may need guidance, support, and accountability to get where you want to go, nobody can tell you what you actually want. That's an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very natural to get caught up in trends. It's very natural to get caught up in thinking, oh, my friend is doing it and she looks like she's really thriving. Maybe that's the thing for me. Try it on.
Yeah.
Try it on. There's no shame in it. But I think just like a bad marriage, a bad career, anything, even like growing your hair out and realizing there's a whole lot of work. I'm going back to short. Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if it's not working, it's not working. What if there's absolutely no shame in saying, I thought it was going to be different than this. I've given it a reasonable amount of effort. Turns out this is not for me. And now I'm going to do something else.
Mm-hmm. And that is completely okay.
That is resiliency. That is
Mm-hmm.
adaptability. That is radical honesty.
And self
And
growth, all of that.
yeah.
It really is.
And if anybody has a problem with it, that's their problem. Doesn't have to be yours.
Yeah, because everybody's gonna have a problem with everything you do. If you decide to be an entrepreneur, someone's gonna have a problem with it. If you decide that you don't like to be an entrepreneur, somebody's gonna have a problem. So who cares?
Ain't that the truth? Let them have their problems. You do what's right for you.
Exactly, exactly. So that's the first one. Some because basically this whole podcast has been what you need to do before you hire a coach. And one of the main takeaways is figure out what you want, what you need, because it really could be you just need a marketer, or you need a
Yeah.
psychologist, or you need
Yeah.
accountant. It could be anything.
Yes. Yes. That coaches are human beings. They're
Right.
they're not, like you say, fairy godmothers. They're not your mother. They're not your therapist. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. They are someone who can provide guidance, support, and accountability. But going into a relationship like that without knowing why you're there, what your expectations are, and what you actually need, it's just like going into any relationship, romantic, friendship,
Mm-hmm.
business partnership, coaching. It doesn't matter what it is, a relationship. If you don't know why you're there, what you need, and what you want, you really should have no expectation that it'll work out.
Exactly.
That's just
Exactly.
that's just wishful thinking.
It is. Do you think there's a well, what to you is the difference between a business coach and a mentor? Because I've heard people say, "Oh, you should get a mentor,"
Mm.
and I think from what I can understand, that person is the one that will hold your hand step by step and guide you and be there for years and years to come. Is that the right?
That's actually, and I probably, even though I refer to myself as a coach,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really fit neatly into any of the categories because I was a clinical supervisor for many years. So I grew therapists. I took graduate students who were new to the profession and helped them develop not only the skills to become a good therapist, but I mainly focused on who they needed to be as a person
Mm-hmm.
to become a good therapist. It was a lot of personal development in the way I supervise people. And so I think that a mentor, it used to be a mentor was someone who worked, usually, again, men had mentors. And a mentor was someone who was senior to you in your company, somebody who had done the same job that you're now doing and continued to rise up. Um, and then as time went by, you would have a mentor who is in your industry but not in your company.
Mm-hmm.
I think most mentorship relationships are voluntary, not paid.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice that some business coaches, business consultants are calling themselves mentors. And I think word choice is always very interesting, but I think a mentor is somebody who doesn't just want to help you go from A to Z. Like somebody, you can hire a coach to, like a launch coach.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hire a podcast launch coach because I need to launch this thing. I know what a podcast is. I've made all the decision. I just need someone to help me actually do the launch. That's a very specific thing. It's a
Right.
short-term relationship by design. A mentor, as you say, is more likely to be somebody that will be helping you with both personal and professional growth. And it does tend to be a more long term. It could be structured or unstructured, like a regular monthly meeting or an
Mm-hmm.
as needed kind of thing. So I think it's a little bit difficult to hire someone into that role. But I think a really good coach who chooses to work one on one and long term is
Mm-hmm.
always also a good mentor, whether they use that terminology or not.
Okay.
I consider myself a mentor. I don't necessarily market using that term,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't tell you how many young clients who have hired me say, "You're who I want to be when I grow up."
Oh,
And
that's
and I think that's very sweet, but I also think so they see me as a mentor.
yeah.
I don't call myself a mentor. That's how they see me because
Mm-hmm.
they want to appropriate some of my perspective, my mindset into how they're building themselves as an entrepreneur.
Okay. I
So,
figured. I was wondering, like, what is the difference between that?
yeah, it's a good question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that in an interview before. So, yeah, yeah. It's good to
Yeah,
be first, isn't it? I like being first.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's what I do.
Mhm. Bringing those good questions
Good.
all day long.
I have been told many times you ask really good questions. So thank
You
you.
do, and you're a good listener too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So how can the listeners connect with you on social media?
I have been telling people to find me on Instagram at Coach Diann Wingert, and it's spelled Diann. Wingert, but I'm actually starting to hang out also a little bit more on LinkedIn at Diann Wingert Coaching. So you can actually find me on either place. And if you like more long form content and you actually like the way I think and how I speak and my thoughts, I have a podcast called The Driven Woman. And it is specifically for female entrepreneurs who are not yet crushing their goals. It might be for you.
I love it. It's great. I've listened to quite a few episodes,
Thank you.
and it's very enlightening. It really is. I appreciate you so much for being on the show. This has been great. We definitely have to do this again because,
I would love to.
yeah,
Now that I know you're not in Australia, and you can tell your audience about that later,
yeah, I don't know
it'll be
why
much
you
easier
thought.
to connect.
I have no idea why you thought I was in Australia.
It's a
I
figment
mean,
of my imagination, girl. I have no idea whatsoever.
not saying I don't want to be. I think there'll be a great place to visit, but I'm over here in Tennessee.
Oh, now see, I told you you didn't have an accent, and you just brought it right there.
I can do it from time to time, but yeah. But that is where I'm from. Thank you so much. And we definitely will have to have you back on this podcast again.
Excellent conversation, and I hope that your audience finds it helpful.
Yes, thank you.